Broken Blueprint by Vance Ferrell, narrated by Samuel Nathan. Part 1b. How Other Schools Began. Before continuing on with events at Battle Creek College, we want to briefly describe several other early schools which were formed in accordance with the blueprint. Some of them were started a decade or so earlier, but by placing them here, the historical development in the other sections of this book will not be interrupted. A brief overview of these schools help us better understand the educational blueprint. 2 new colleges. During the year that the Battle Creek School was closed, that is 1882 to 1883, 2 new colleges opened. Hillsburg, California, with Brownsberger as president, and South Lancaster, Massachusetts, with Bell as its head. Would they follow the blueprint? In both instances, we find that adherence to the blueprint did not require great financial resources nor large building, but strong leadership and dedicated workers. Let us briefly consider each of these new schools. South Lancaster Academy. At the strong urging of S.N. Haskell in a February 1882 meeting, the Brethren in New England started South Lancaster Academy in April of that year. Although called an academy, it was actually a college-level institution. In 1922, it was renamed Atlantic Union College. Haskell said that the object of the school was dual in nature, to train workers who could not only work for the church, but also support themselves. Quote, "It has been thought by some that practical aims are inconsistent with true culture." End of quote. Taken from Review, March 7, 1882. Goodloe Bell was called to head up the new school. Regarding Bell, Arthur W. Spading made this statement, quote, "Professor Bell was perhaps the most clear-sighted educator the denomination has ever known. He believed thoroughly in the system of Christian education which Sister White, divinely inspired, had already presented, and he sought here, which is at AUC, to put it into operation." End of quote. Footprints of the Pioneers, page 16. The course of study Bell proposed includes none of the classical studies such as Greek, Latin, and elocution. He outlined the course of study in a review article. Quote, "The course of study will embrace English language, mathematics, geography, human psychology, and hygiene, and Bible history, together with practical instructions in tact and missionary work, and in the most useful of the agricultural, domestic, and mechanic arts. But in all studies, the Bible ranks highest. Our practical knowledge of the law of health is all important. Pupil will be expected to take but few studies at a time, thereby mastering them the more rapidly." End of quote. Taken from Review, March 7, 1882. The plan was for short courses of study to quickly fit students to enter the work. After the close of schools on the first day, when all meet to discuss the situation, the students said they wanted to help construct the institution. Even though they had only received a brief introduction to the educational blueprint, they immediately asked for an acre of ground that they could cultivate, with the proceeds to be donated to the schools. Two articles in the review, June 28 and August 15, 1882, explains that instead of games and frivolous amusements, each event the students had taken a special course in psychology. Manual labor was scheduled and required 3 hours each day. There is 1 hour after breakfast, one after dinner, and another at night. Students were paid according to the value of their work. The daily schedule required rising at 5 a.m. Study time ended at 9 p.m. During this time, assistance from teacher was available. There was a daily Bible class, evening worship, and weekly prayer meetings. Baptisms resulted. Students engaged in missionary projects, such as sending publication to non-believers, corresponding with interested persons, placing books in libraries, and corresponding with isolated believers. The entire New England Conference was thrilled at the good progress that was being made in the new school. By March 1894, aside from the gardening and homework, 4 trades were being taught and 2 more were in the planning stage. By December, it was announced that 6 months course of canvassing missionary work and the giving of Bible reading, that is Bible studies, would begin in January. During the last 3 months of the 1884 spring term, intensive drills in missionary work was given to prepare students to engage in missionary work throughout the summer months. In July 1884, Elder Haskell reported that during the 2 years of the school's existence, over 30 conversions had occurred. Hillsburg College. In October 1881, at a camp meeting near Sacramento, Ellen White, W. C. White, J. N. Haskell, and J. H. Wagner were present and urged that a school be started in California. About 12 weeks later, the site was located at Hillsburg, about 65 miles north of San Francisco Bay. You will recall that no industries that had been started at Battle Creek during its first 8 years under the leadership of Sidney Brownsberger. Although Ellen White had urged it, Brownsberger, a graduate of the University of Michigan, said he did not know how to operate such a school. But after leaving the headship of Battle Creek College in the spring of 1881, he became sick. While convalescing that summer, he declared that he recognized his errors. Perhaps he himself had previously overworked without having obtained adequate exercise. Arriving at Hillsburg at fall, he fully endorsed the blueprint program his associates arranged, even though he himself was still learning more about it. At the end of the first half of the first year, he wrote, opening quote, "The commencement of this year has been one of unusual anxiety for many friends of the college. An untried field of responsibility was entered upon in uniting physical employment with mental labor, and every step in the development of this system was watched with intense interest. Almost from the very first, there had been a steadily increasing interest of the part of the student in the practical work of this new system, and I doubt that there is one of our own number who would willingly return to the whole method. The students are hard at work at their various employment, and they are happy because they are faithful." End of quote. Brownsberger Review, January 15, 1884. The daily program was tailored to fit the new work system, as it was called, providing the 3 periods of labor each day. Each student had to work a total of 2 hours daily. The young men and boys were formed into 5 companies of 5 or 6. Each group had a leader, and the different groups changed work after several weeks. In order to give them a wide experience, the faculty taught their academic classes and then went to work with the students. Quote, the influence of manual labor upon the student department had been very wholesome, and in no way has it impeded mental progress, but rather accelerated it. End of quote. Taken from Brownsberger, Science, May 17, 1883. Trades which were taught include carpentry, painting, printing, shoemaking, blacksmithing, and tent making. It should be noted that Hamsburg College had 2 problems. First, it was located at the edge of a town and did not have sufficient land, that is only 7 acres. Second, it eventually closed down due to later management which neither understood the blueprint nor managed finances properly. Quote, nevertheless, in its later career, as a result of some weak administrations altering with the strong, the college deteriorating in moral and declined in the confidence of the people, its industries perished. Some of the buildings were closed, its student body became demoralized till there was no remedy. End of quote. Taken from A.W. Spading, Christ's Last Legion, page 63. Beginning in 1882, Helmsburg College closed its door in June 1908. In September 1909, a new school began at Pacific Union College in Angwin. It is of interest that once he had taken hold of the educational blueprint, Brownsberger remained with it. In 1909, at the age of 64, he helped establish Hallsville Agricultural School and Mountain Sanitarium near Fletcher, North Carolina. Union College. We will not devote much space to Union College, founded in 1891. From the beginning, it had a classical curriculum with no work program, no industries, and no required Bible or religious course. For the first 5 years, it was 4 schools in one, with separate bulletins, schedules, textbooks, and classes in English, German, Swedish, and Danish, Norwegian. In 1896, 3 other schools were started elsewhere in the central states. These specialized in each of the foreign languages. To induce it to locate there, the city of Lincoln, Nebraska, had given it 212 acres of land. It promptly sold all but 20 acres. Like many of our other colleges, for decades it has been surrounded by city. Avondale. When Ellen White went to Australia in December 1891, there were 3 colleges, Battle Creek, Hamsburg, and Union, and the 4th would begin the next year, that is at Walla Walla. There were 3 academies, South Lancaster, actually college level, Milton, and Portland in Oregon. There was even a training school for Hamsburg, Germany. Yet by 1891, there was still little evidence of blueprint education anywhere in the world. Arriving in Australia, Ellen White began encouraging the brethren to start a blueprint school. Quote, Avondale was to be the model school of higher grade for all the Adventist world. It was to be marked with simplicity, industry, devotion, adherence to the pattern. End of quote. Taken from Spedding, Captain of the Host, page 651. The work in Australia started only 7 years earlier by S.N. Haskell, O.J. Corliss, and William Arnold at experienced Kolkata, was remarkably well established by December 1891, when Ellen White, her son, and her staff arrived. Because he had been urging that a school be established about 6 months earlier in June 1892, 2 large houses were rented in Melbourne. The school was so successful that the following year the third building had to be rented. But Ellen White told the leaders that they must find a large acreage out in the country. In April or May, they found the 1,450-acre Campbell Estate. It was located near the village of Corangon, 5 miles from the town of Newcastle and 75 miles from the capital city, Sydney. The price was only $300 an acre. 2 streams, one on each side of the estate, flowed into Dora Creek. Small steamboats could navigate the river from the ocean, about 14 miles away. Influential critics were quick to declare the soil poor and the land worthless, but a startling development silenced their objections. Quote, Before I visited Corangon, the Lord gave me a dream. In my dream, I had taken the land that was for sale in Corangon. Several of our brethren had been solicited to visit the land. I dreamed that as I was walking about the estate, I came to a neat-cut furrow that had been plowed 1/4 of a yard deep and 2 yards in length. 2 of the brethren who had walked the rich soil of Iowa were standing before the furrow and saying, This is not good land. The soil is not favorable. But one who was often spoken in council was also present, and he said, False witness had been borne of his land. He then described the properties of the different layers of the earth. He explained the signs of the soil and said that this land was adapted to the growing of fruits and vegetables, and that, if well worked, would produce its treasures for the benefit of men. This dream I related to brother and sister Star and my family. Afterwards, as I was walking on the ground, lo, there was the furrow, just as I had described it, and the man also criticized the appearance of the land. The words were spoken just as I had dreamed. End of quote. Ellen G. White quoted in F.C. Gilbert, Divine Prediction of Mrs. Ellen G. White, fulfilled, page 343 to 344. On May 24, 1894, the party went there, and discovering the furrow, some complained as they gazed upon it. Then they realized that there was no way the fresh furrow could have been placed there. The grass about it had been untouched in all directions. At this, Ellen White and the other related the dream of several weeks earlier. After an event of earnest prayer, there was perfect unity in the decision to purchase the land for $4,500. especially after one of those who knighted them in prayer was instantly healed of tuberculosis, as Ellen White prayed. Taken from A.G. Daniel's Abiding Gift of Prophecy, page 312. In a dream, she had been told that if the land was plowed deeply, this would bring up the needed minerals and enrich the soil. When this was done, fruit trees, berries, and vegetables grew in abundance. Decades later, Daniels wrote, quote, God's blessing rested significantly upon the field and orchards at Avondale. I remembered at one time, while connected with the schools for a short period, I went into the vineyard, lifting up some of the heavy vines, and brought to view large branches of the most luscious grapes I have ever seen. From the 10-acre orchard, I have helped the boys carry to the school kitchen large baskets of peach, oranges, lemons, and apples, as fine as could be grown. End of quote. Taken from A.G. Daniel's Abiding Gift of Prophecy, chapter 28. It should be noted here that in the dream, the different layers of the soil at Avondale were shown to Ellen White. It is true that looking at it from above, the soil appears to be sandy and worthless, but she was told that there was rich dirt below the top layer. That only needed deep plowing to be brought up. The Hilly Hotel in nearby Corongbourne was rented, and the students and classes were housed there. By day, everyone worked on the property, clearing trees and draining the land. In the evening, classes were held in the hotel. When 2 buildings on campus had been built and partly ready, the school opened on April 28, 1897. All the while, Ellen White was assisting in planning the curriculum and writing letters to raise money. She made her home near the school in a cottage she called Sunnyside from 1895 to 1900. The loan fund was set up in a trust which would perpetually help needy students attend the school. They were expected to repay it as soon as they could after leaving the school. That is, at that time, about 20 cents a week would pay the tuition of one student. Students were also expected to work during the summers so they could partly meet their own expenses. Every morning, someone would ring a hand clapper bell to wake everyone at 5:45 a.m. Classes were held in the morning and after lunch. The students spent 3 hours in labor. About a mile west of the school was the hospital and entering wage for the message. The first church was in a sawmill loft. Although the dissatisfied members talked about building a church, they did little about it until one day when Ellen White told them a message she had received the night before. She was shown the prophet Haggai calling on the Israelites to arise and build the house of the Lord. Haggai chapter 1 verse 4 to 5 and verse 8. Immediately they set to work, raised the money, and built a church at Avondale. Over a period of time, a number of industries were started where the students could learn trade and pay their way through school. This included a dairy, bakery, orchard, and farm, carpentry, and poultry. Although the original food factory was located on campus in 1897, a separate facility was started in Melbourne. Over the years, profits have helped schools and mission projects. Here is a summary of blueprint point as given in the two primary Spirit of Prophecy messages about Avondale. Life sketch, the Avondale School. The youth can never receive the proper training in any of our schools which are located near the city. That is Life Sketch, page 351, paragraph 1 to 352, paragraph 1. The school should be out in nature where the eye does not rest on the dwelling of men. That is Life Sketch, page 382, paragraph 2. Manual occupation is vital. That is from Life Sketch, page 352, paragraph 2 to page 355, paragraph 1. School industries should be established. Taken from Life Sketch, page 355, paragraph 1. Avondale should be a training ground for missionaries. That is Life Sketch, page 372, paragraph 2 to 376, paragraph 2. Testimony 6, quote, the Avondale School Farm. Lots should not be sold to Adventists who want to build around the school. They should be located some distance from it. All in the land around the school should be for the school farm. That is Testimonies, volume 6, page 181, paragraph 2 to paragraph 3, and 183, paragraph 1 to 185, paragraph 1. Teachers are needed for various lines, including industrial education. A hospital should be built. Orphans should be able to come here for an education. The students should help erect the buildings, and they should not be crowded close together. Testimonies, volume 6, page 182, paragraph 1 to 183. 7 other schools. Think not that either manual labor by the student or industrial education was a novelty found only at the few of our early schools. Research revealed that many of our brethren were anxious to fulfill the blueprint back in those days. Washington Missionary College, Oakwood College, Graceville Academy, today called Southern Adventist University, Lodi Academy, Keene Academy, that is now Southwestern Adventist University, as well as overseas schools such as Solusi in Rhodesia, modern Kenya, were all originally blueprint schools. Many others could be mentioned. Even small San Fernando Academy, with over 25 acres, was located in the country and had a farm on which the students worked. As Ellen White kept telling them, the key factor was the amount of land owned by the school. If there was not enough, it could not properly fulfill the plan. For example, consider Washington Missionary College, today located in a few buildings on the city street. It is a pathetic shadow of what it once was, but originally it shared 50 acres with the sanitarium and also operated a 100-acre farm where the students worked. Another example would be La Sierra, where the students work on its 330-acre farm. The situation is far different today. We will now return to Battle Creek and pick up the story where we earlier left off.